You all know what's the evening topic here, right? Evening topic. Evening topic is a summary of the first 6 cantos of the Bhagavatam in a nutshell. And the reason for this is, my understanding is, there's a number of devotees, and local devotees are one of those groups of devotees that have been reading Srimad Bhagavatam together. Is that correct? Bhagavatam reading group. And we're leading up to having a big festival for many of the groups having completed a certain portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Many, as far as I understand it, have completed the first 2 cantos. How about your group? 4th canto. Whoa. Moving along. Okay. So at the end, there's going to be like a Haribol festival. Certificates, giving awards to people for having completed, or something like that. And encourage them to continue. So that's the purpose of what we're doing. So as you can see, this is the 4th of a series. A flow of Srimad Bhagavatam. We completed yesterday evening the first 3 chapters of Canto 2. And the first 3 chapters of Canto 2 are the first time that Shukadeva Goswami speaks. Although we say he spoke the Bhagavatam, he doesn't start until Canto 2. And he's responding in those 3 chapters to the questions asked by Maharaj Parikshit. The questions asked by Maharaj Parikshit are 2. What's the duty of a person about to die? Who is about to die? And the other question was, what is that subject matter that should always be heard, chanted, and remembered? Shrotavya, kirtitavyascha, dhyaya, pujas chanityada. So we heard the answer in the first few verses. Shukadeva Goswami was appreciating the questions, and Shukadeva gave a summary of the answer to those 2 questions. And then he begins the 3 chapters describing, engaging in the process of hearing and chanting while meditating on the universal form, moving along to meditating on the Paramatma, moving along to performing devotional service. Those are the 3 chapters. And Maharaj Parikshit really liked what he heard, and so he, of all things, he's about to die, and he asks to hear about creation. Now, if you were about to die, is that what you'd want to hear about? He probably was not just interested in the information, but he was interested in hearing the realization that the sublime realized state of consciousness of the relationship of all things in this cosmic manifestation with Krishna. Sambandha Gyan, in other words. So that's a good place to start. So he heard, he spoke these questions, and now we're going to get the reply in a whole series of chapters, actually, not just a series of verses. So in this section, the 4 seed verses, we commonly know this is the Chatur Shloki. We're going to touch on them, and I'll warn you. Here's the warning. As it is difficult to read and comprehend this section of the Bhagavatam, it's even more difficult to quickly summarize that which is very difficult to understand. So if you don't follow everything, that's quite okay, because it was really challenging to put it together and it's important, but it's not easy to understand. So get ready for something that's not easy to understand. So we're going to begin with chapter 4. Parikshit asks about the creation. And Shukadev prays to the Supreme Lord for the empowerment to speak about the Lord's pastime of creation. That's that petal that's over there. Of the 10 chapters of Canto 10, there's petal number 4, chapter 4. There's Shukadev Goswami praying to the Lord for the power to speak about that which is not easy. And it's identified as a pastime. Then chapter 5, look at that. There's Shukadev relates a story wherein Narada Muni asked Brahma the very same questions about creation. Must be important, right? Parikshit asks, then Narada Muni asks same questions. And then Brahma explains that he created the universe after the Lord creates all its ingredients and impregnates material nature with the seeds of living entities. In other words, Sarga and Visarga, we're going to hear at the very end that there are 10 topics, and this is 2 of the 10. You know what Sarga is? Sarga means the creation of Vishnu, and Visarga is the subcreation of Brahma. So here, the Sarga is the Lord creates all the ingredients and impregnates material nature with the seeds and living entities. You know, everything is all set up for Brahma. Brahma enters and Brahma assembles it. That's the subcreation. Sarga Visarga. Learning about the importance of hearing about Krishna, Parikshit Maharaj fixed his mind on Krishna and said, if you're about to die and you're fixing your mind on Krishna, what are you going to say? Here's what Parikshit said. I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes, as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods. That's one question. Parikshit, with his mind fixed on the personality of Godhead, requesting Shukadev kindly describe how the Supreme Lord, who is all-powerful, engages his different energies and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sporting spirit of a player. So sequentially that should have been before chapter 5 because this is chapter 4. But those are his questions. So it's the Supreme Lord's Sarga, engaging his energies in expansions of himself, in maintaining and again winding up. So it's a whole from the beginning till the end. And it's spoken of as a lila, or a sporting spirit of a player. Still in chapter 4, my dear king, Brahma, the firstborn, on being questioned by Narada, exactly appraised him on this subject. So it's disciplic succession. You're asking me, but Narada taught Vyasa, who taught me. So here was Brahma's answer to Narada, who taught Vyasa, who taught me. And this is what Brahma said to Narada. And Brahma was impregnated with Vedic knowledge from his very birth. Please tell me that transcendental knowledge. That's Brahma in the center of the painting. That's Narada asking Brahma. Similar, almost the same as what Parikshit is asking Shukadev. Please tell me that transcendental knowledge which specifically directs one to the truth of the individual soul and the supersoul. So the purpose of understanding the process of creation and subcreation is to know who we are and know the relationship of the supersoul to all the parts of creation. And by supersoul, it certainly means the Lord of the Heart, but it means all the other forms of Vishnu. Supersoul can mean the supersoul of the universe. That's Garbhodakshay Vishnu, etc. So there are questions, additional questions, detailed questions that Narada asks. There's headings. Here we go. Here's the headings. Yadrupam. What are the symptoms of this manifest world? And by name, there are symptoms. So we know there's 5 primary topics in the Bhagavad Gita. Here's the identified topics of the manifest world in Narada's questions. Yad Rupam and Yad Adishtanam. Adishtanam. What's the shelter of all of them? There's Narayana in the middle. He's the shelter. And Yat Param, what it depends on. Kind of like the interaction of all these different features. Yata Shrishtam, how is it created? The big section. How is it created? This is chapter 5, is now just giving it the description of Sarga, Mahavishnu, and what he does to set everything up for Brahma to come in and put it all together. Yachcha, what is it composed of? That's answered in chapter 6. So the questions and then the answers. The Lord is both material and effective cause. What's that mean? Well, effective means like remote, and material means there's nimitta and upadan. But that's a little technical. So here's a nice example. It's easy to understand. So the example of the potter and the potter's wheel and the clay. So the clay is just a lump, and it undergoes transformation. But it's a cause of the pot. It's a material cause.